Hey guys, Tim Bratz here. Welcome to another episode of Spilling the Beans. Today we're continuing the social media influencer series about all the different social media platforms and how to grow your branding and grow your influence through social media. So I'm interviewing my team at Legacy Digital, and if you didn't watch last week's episode, you got to jump on it. It's all about Facebook. Today, this week, we're talking all about LinkedIn. And so I'm sitting down with Caitlyn, who's an absolute master at journalism, at copy and ad copywriting, and at building a professional following on LinkedIn. So let's go sit down with Caitlyn. I think you're gonna love what she has to say. Caitlyn, welcome to Spill the Beans. I need a high five. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
So great.
Good.
We had an awesome meeting. I loved meeting and sitting down and really, obviously I've met you guys before, but sitting down and really spending some time with the team. And you guys have been handling my social media. I've been working with Q and the team for almost probably 2 years now. You guys have done such an awesome job. We're always leaning on you guys for giving feedback. You guys are staying relevant on all the social media aspects across every single platform, and that's stuff that changes every single day. It's so dynamic of an industry. It's awesome, which is why I invested in the company, because I believe so much in what you guys are doing. I'm like, I want to get involved and I want to stay relevant to you guys to give feedback to my team on internally and stuff. So a lot of great things. Great takeaways, I think, from today. I think
Definitely.
It was just a good meeting overall. But what I want to do is, I was so blown away by each of you guys having your own specialization that we're doing a series all on social media and hitting on each different platform over the course of this month. And so I want to hit on yours being LinkedIn. But first, let's talk a little bit about your backstory. I want to hear about how'd you get into social media, and I think you're a journalism major?
Yep, I was.
All right,
yes.
Tell me more.
So I was a journalism major and also actually a French major. So I've always loved to talk to people and communicate.
Je parle un petit français.
Yes, oui, oui. Moi aussi.
Un petit peu.
Mais, but so I really wanted to focus whatever career I got into on communicating and generating conversation and connecting people with as many people as they possibly can, because that's what French was to me, and that's what journalism was for me, was getting to meet people from not just the journalism or communication industry, but people in sports and people in tech and people I didn't maybe understand where they were coming from, but learn how to understand them. So that's what brought me to social media. I worked for an agency. I went to Penn State, so Q's alumni or alma mater also, which is super awesome to be around a fellow Penn Stater. Because they have a lot of great opportunities there. So we did I was a part of a social media agency, and that was where I learned that social media isn't all about just posting and being maybe pretty or having an aesthetic lifestyle. It's very strategic, and it also involves a lot of communication and a lot of copy and concise copy. So with that, I knew that I wanted to work somewhat in social media. I just didn't know in what capacity. And I was from Minnesota, so my options were very limited there. So I was looking out elsewhere, and that's where I found Legacy Digital with Q, just through the Penn State Alumni Network. I knew of her company, and I've heard great things about Charleston, and I was following them.
Have you ever been here before, Charleston?
No, never.
Cool.
So I moved here, and now I'm here.
I love it.
I guess for the foreseeable future. So it was really great. I was following them on social media. I really liked what they were doing. I liked that they, weren't just, they're niche, but not too niche that it's like you only focus in tech or you only focus in medicine. We're really working with entrepreneurs, which I love because I come from a line of entrepreneurs. I lived in a historic town that didn't allow, places like Target to come in and infiltrate the downtown area. It was strictly small business owners, which I really loved. And I think their stories are impactful and they're great communicators. And my goal with social media is to alleviate that burden of digital presence that's always changing, and you might not have the communication skills to keep up with it and know how to communicate your brand and give that to us so you can focus on what you do well. So with Legacy Digital, we work with a lot of real estate investors, and that's what they do well. We want them to be able to focus their efforts on that and not have to worry about, well, how am I going to get this to translate on my Instagram, or what is my brand? And so that's where we step in, and I'm really glad that I found this opportunity and get to start working with them, and they're awesome clients.
I love it. I love it. So you mentioned something about the importance of clear, concise communication, right? And I went through probably 8 years ago now, maybe more. About 8 years ago, I went through a program called 10,000 Small Businesses, which was put on by Goldman Sachs to help small businesses scale and grow. And day one in that I don't know, what would you call it, accelerator program.
Yeah.
It was like every week for 10 weeks or something like that. We met and hit on different topics. And the most important thing on day one that they hit on was communication. And and their three things were effective, efficient, and bold communication.
Yeah.
What would you say that you found in being a journalism major, you have your own blog and you've done a bunch of articles, right? And clearly and concisely communicating, like, how would you give a couple of, I don't know, gives to the audience on things that they can do in order to be a more effective communicator?
I think it stems first and foremost from practice. So it's not something that you're going to be able to do overnight. It's something that you develop and you are constantly developing. It's the same with, I think, people who are really well read are really great communicators and have really honed in their skills on this concise, clear, but bold communication. Because as I think all know now that social media, someone decides whether to stay or to go within the first 7 seconds. So if you don't have something that they care about within the first 7 seconds, you're gone. And they might not ever come back to you again. So for me, it's, practicing that messaging and learning what works best, and having a journalism background, I think, is more important than people may think, because you learn not only how to write, but you learn how to write things that people want to read. So I learned, how to be a writer, but also how to be a consumer of information. So if you put yourself in the middle of those two people, you're able to create a message that reflects your brand, but also reflects something that your audience wants from you, because it's not just you're shoving information to them and they're just taking it. It's a give and take. They want something from you, you want something from them. So learning how to build that messaging to include both parties is super important, and how to do it quick and concise and bold, like you said, is something that takes skill, but also practice. And I think everybody can get there if they have the right skills.
I love that. Like, one of the things I've noticed from you is, like, you're very aware, right? You're personally aware, you're socially aware, you pay attention to a lot of that stuff. And it's like, I don't know, to your point, like, when I became a dad, I became a better son, right? Because now I understand what that's like, you know what I mean?
That's a really great point.
And it's similar to when you start writing content or creating content, you consume it in a different way and you watch things in a different way. It makes you more self-aware, which I think is one of the most underrated and least talked about traits of successful people. Yeah. And they're very emotionally intelligent in that regard. And I think when you create it, you become a better consumer of content. When you're a better consumer, then you're a better creator of content, because it's a self-perpetuating kind of vehicle, Yeah,
it can also get to a point where you become too critical. I find that sometimes it's a negative part of me. Sometimes I overstep too much and I think too much about things. That's also the thing about social media is, yes, there is strategy, and yes, you need to be strategically thinking and really place an importance on what you're writing, but also there's kind of that fun idea that you can just throw something out and see if it works, because you truly never know. I don't think anybody will ever crack the perfect code to social media, because it moves too quick, which is my favorite part about it, is because it allows different personalities and different techniques to shine through at different times. So it's all about, having your strategy, but also being able to adapt quickly and not be afraid to put something out on the internet and on social media that you might think it might not work. And if it doesn't work, you try something new. But if it does, great, you kind of use that and you can launch with it also.
I love that. I think, I don't think you'll ever lose if you stick to content that educates, content that inspires, content that entertains, right? And I think, like, that's always been my focus on social media, is if I can hit on one or multiple of those three kind of pillars, I guess, I'm fine with it always being out there. I'm fine with it ever being evergreen. I'm fine with it, like, even if it doesn't fail, I knew that I was trying to lead with value, of trying to either educate, inspire, or entertain some, like, folks, so that way, I could improve their life in some capacity and give them some sort of education or excitement or something to look forward to, or help them through whatever trying times that they're facing. Like, that to me, as long as it falls on one of those, I'm willing to try whatever because I know that I'm leading with good intentions, So you specialize mostly in LinkedIn, right? So I know each one of the team members and digital managers specializes in a different platform. And so yours is specifically LinkedIn. Tell me why you think LinkedIn is a great fit for you, and give me a couple of takeaways of, like, somebody who's watching this who wants to grow their LinkedIn following and grow their LinkedIn reach, like what are a couple things that they can do over the next 30 days in order to start amplifying that?
Yeah. Well, like you just said, if content has to be inspiring, it has to be educational, and it has to be educational as well. Those are all three things that LinkedIn does really fantastically, and it does it in a way that's not gimmicky. So TikTok sometimes can be gimmicky, you know, clickbaity, also YouTube at times, but LinkedIn is, in my opinion, the one platform that has truly stuck to the idea of providing someone with value. And not only value, but connection. So when we talk about social media is the idea that you are creating a community. You're not standing on a soapbox and talking to people and thinking that your information is valuable, but it's really not. You want to create a community, which is what LinkedIn has done so amazingly. And people used to think that it was a networking platform only, but it's really a community platform, and it's a really big platform for thought leaders, for CEOs, COOs, and people looking to look for those people so that they can, you know, grow into that role someday, or grow into the role that they are already in, whether that's a role like mine or a role like Q's. So when it comes to LinkedIn, I think, you know, the most important part is having a LinkedIn and having it be a representative of your brand. Because if someone sees your LinkedIn and it's all over the place, you know, sometimes you're posting this kind of content, sometimes you're posting a different kind of content, they're going to be confused. Because with social media, you know, if they see you once and they like your content, great. If they see you twice and they recognize that that's the same kind of content, then they're going to start to kind of become more so of a fan of yours and start to build that following and build that connection and be like, now I can tell when this is Caitlyn's content versus when this is Q's content. So that's a really important step, is to make sure that your LinkedIn is reflective of your brand, whether that's your personal brand or your business brand. But with that, LinkedIn is not somewhere you sell. So LinkedIn does not have any success in, you know, selling a product. You don't go on there as a business and say, for example, if you're a makeup company, you're not trying to sell mascara. You're trying to give, you know, your story about how does mascara empower you as a woman. That is what does well on LinkedIn, and that, you know, curates conversation surrounding it, which then curates a conversation surrounding your brand. So that's kind of how LinkedIn is able to...
It's more about connections than anything else, right?
Yes. So if you're trying to curate that connection, I just was watching a video about the E3C method. So it's engage, connect, conversate, and then call. So the first step is to engage. So to find thought leaders, whether this is for your brand or whether for yourself, to find thought leaders that are within your industry or have similar vibes, if you will, of your industry. So let's say I am in the makeup industry and I follow a makeup artist. She might just have her own freelance, but she talks a lot about what it's like to run a brand as someone who has lived in poverty before, and how it's very knowing, or she places a lot of importance on, you know, knowing your audience, and that not makeup is not accessible to everybody. And let's say that is very similar to your industry. So what you do is connect. So you go to that page and you don't just leave a comment saying, love this, because that doesn't really give them value. That doesn't, you know, engage conversation. It's just your opinion. So what you would want to do instead is say, love this, you know, commentation about poverty and makeup. I've personally, you know, seen this as makeup prices rise, and you know, makeup is a part of what makes me feel empowered as a woman. So what is your opinion on the rising prices or the differences in, you know, high end and low end makeup? So there you've established that you like their content, you've established a personal connection, and then you've kind of sparked conversation for them to respond. And a good LinkedIn brand, this person would respond to you. Or the next step would be, you know, to connect on messaging and leave that kind of message in the LinkedIn messages. And once that conversation, you kind of want to like water the conversation. You don't want to just, you know, have that one spark and then the next time you talk to them it's like, let's call, because that just seems disingenuous. They can kind of tell what you're, you know, going through. So you want to, you know, establish a relationship, have a good conversation, and then towards the end, when you feel like, you know, a connection is established, say, hey, would you mind, you know, hopping on a call? I have this business. I would love to talk more about, you know, this topic and your business, and how, you know, maybe we could benefit each other, or how you can benefit from my business. So that's, you know, a good first step on how to use LinkedIn in a more connective way, and how to build a community rather than just posting, and, you know, being a soapbox rather than establishing your community.
I think that is so powerful, because as you're talking, I'm thinking about the people who engage, especially if you want attention from, you know, and I don't see myself as an influencer, but like I'm probably one of the better known multifamily investors in the United States, right? Just because of my social media. And I have thousands of friend requests on Facebook that I can't even look at because it's just, I get too many of them.
Yeah.
And so I haven't looked at it in, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been. And so like, you know who I pay attention to? It's the people who comment like that, right? Even the likes, I can't look at the likes, but
Right.
like the people who comment stick out.
Yeah.
And if I see them commenting over and over again, I pay attention to them. And then I click on their profile and I find out what they're about. And then I see there's a pending friend request and I just put accept, right?
Yeah.
And like, I'm talking about Facebook, but like same thing with LinkedIn as well. And you see the people and you pay attention, the brands, you know, that you want to connect with or pay attention to the people who engage and support and like that. How do you provide value to some guru? It's that way,
Yeah.
right? It's because you're building up their brand, you're supporting their brand. That is so valuable to somebody who wants to be an influencer
Yeah.
that, you know, like, oh, how can I help you isn't like a way that you provide value to me. Like my stuff, comment on my stuff, share
Yeah.
my stuff, and all of a sudden you get my attention. And so I think
Yeah.
that's a brilliant way to really start engaging with a couple of the brands that you're looking to, you know, connect with.
Definitely. And we've been calling it, as the LinkedIn community is called, social selling. So you're selling your community and you're selling yourself. You're not selling a product. 'Cause that has just been known to not work on LinkedIn. And people have tried it. I've seen ads on my personal LinkedIn for, you know, certain types of masterminds, things like that. That's things that want to be linked into, and you want to funnel into that call, and that call can, you know, convert to a sale eventually. But that's not something you want to step onto LinkedIn to promote because it's inauthentic and people are looking for social selling, whether they know that or not on LinkedIn. That's truly what's happening. They're looking for value that's non-monetary through a person, through a thought leader, through conversation. So definitely.
I love it. I love it. No, it's so good, and it's leading with value, right? It's leading with. When I was talking with Garrett, I used the example of like making deposits into a bank account before you ever make a withdrawal, right? You got to make a deposit, make another deposit, let the money compound, and then you can start taking back out, right? Then you can start asking for a sale. Then you can start asking for, reciprocation some way. But after you give, then you can ask.
Yeah.
People lead off with asking, and then you look like an asshole, right?
Yes.
That's what they're,
Yeah.
And so that's not a good perspective. It's just like if you always lead with value, it's like How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? The Dale Carnegie book of just show genuine interest in what somebody else is doing, and support them and utilize their name and figure out ways on how you can lead with value. All of a sudden they want to reciprocate in a massive way, and it's just being a good human, right? It's showing genuine interest in a lot of that stuff. So I think you can do that on social media, and social media is such a strong platform to connect you with other people across the country that you'd never be able to connect with otherwise outside of this platform. It's so powerful and can connect you to these folks in such a quick and powerful way. I think it's such a strong tool to build a business if utilized the right way. Right? And so,
Exactly.
All right, so what is something that somebody should do this week on LinkedIn in order to grow their LinkedIn? I know you just kind of gave that, but give me one more.
I think finding, just one or two thought leaders or people in your industry that you can connect with, whether that's just taking time to find it and look at their comments and see what their other thought leaders or other brands are doing underneath comments. But the more you look for it, the more you'll see it, because people are doing this and they're doing it correctly. So, joining in on those conversations and becoming a part of the LinkedIn community the quote unquote right way and in a way that's going to generate conversation rather than trying to focus on spending ad money and spending time like linking your site and things like that. So I think if you just spent, even just 20 minutes in a week, just looking for, people to connect with, just starting those conversations. And then maybe, the next week, then you focus on commenting, finding certain things, and make sure it's authentic. Make sure, you're not someone in the makeup industry commenting on someone in the tech industry. It doesn't make sense unless they have a personal story that you resonate with, but you have to make sure that the connection makes sense. It can't just be a mass, send out, because it's not authentic and people are not going to connect with you back because they want conversation. They don't want, mass engagement. Well, that looks super nice. You're not going to get engaged with through that. So I think, that's the first step, is just, it's just starting small, especially if it's intimidating to you and not something that you're used to, but then kind of growing off on that. And, maybe it takes you a month to build one relationship, but that's okay, because once you have one, you're going to have more. And once you have that, then you have experience doing so. So it's the same thing as me in school, doing journalism, doing interviews was really scary at the first one, trying to set up an interview with someone I didn't know and trying to ask them questions. But the more and more I did it, the faster it went and the easier it was, and the more fun it was, and the better content I got. So it's a very similar, behavior in connecting with people on LinkedIn and learning how to communicate and do so authentically that reflects your brand and your identity. So.
I love that.
Yep.
And like, you're gonna mess up. You're gonna say like, if you always lead with good intentions though, like, people see through your mistakes and messing up or stuttering over whatever. Like, it's like anything. It's like you got to go to the gym, put the reps in. You got to put, the effort in, and you'll always get a little bit stronger, a little bit better, a little bit.
Yeah.
There's no chance you could have come to me 10 years ago and asked me to do this and do podcasts and interview people and try to like give value, because it's been a muscle that's been exercised for a decade, and you see today and you think it happened overnight, and it didn't. And you get the skill, you gain the knowledge, you gain this by doing the action.
Yeah.
And the more you do the action, the more you do the activity, the stronger you get, the better you get in whatever you're trying to accomplish. And social media is the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's just taking the phone and doing something, or writing out a post, or you're gonna see what hits, what doesn't hit, what you can do better, and it's always a learning experience. And it's just consistency over time is what I found, right?
Yeah,
it's just,
definitely.
Can keep on doing it. And if you're like me, and you're consistently inconsistent, then you hire somebody like Caitlyn and the Legacy Digital team to do it on a daily basis, so that way you don't have to. But
yeah, definitely. And my biggest piece of advice for starting out is the best thing that you can do is make sure to spell their name correctly, especially on LinkedIn. People really care if you put in the time to just triple check your message, and even throw in something that you can tell that you weren't just mass sending it. So go through their page. If they were in piano club in college, say, I always wanted to learn how to piano, like, do you still play today? It really means something to someone, especially as if you are a thought leader in an industry. If you're a COO, CEO, you probably get a lot of messages. And especially if you have maybe a unique name or a name that's often misspelled, like mine is Caitlyn. If someone spells it right, I know that they took time to spell it right, maybe find something out about me, and that shows authenticity, and it just means a lot more. And it can maybe help you avoid, not getting a response, or it makes you just seem more professional and like you genuinely care. So that would be a little tip also, is to spell the name right.
I love it. Well, I'll tell you what, it's like, Q invites me in order to have a conversation with you guys on the big business type stuff, and I learn just as much, if not more, right, by being able to have this banter back and forth with the team and you, and understanding, what the specialties are, and how all these things are changing all the time, and you guys giving me feedback, and it's so important to have like these kinds of conversations and surround yourself with these kinds of people, and be able to just talk and work on the business as opposed to just in the business all the time. But it's such a good group. It's such a rock star group. I'm super proud to have you guys on the team. So appreciate you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Hey, hopefully you guys got a ton of value out of that. We're going to be continuing this series. If you haven't watched the other episodes with the other platforms, make sure that you do. And by the way, if this is something that you understand is super valuable, and maybe if you're inconsistent like I was with social media and you need to hire somebody, give these guys a call. They're a concierge at what they do. I would put them toe to toe with anybody in this industry at a lower price point with a way higher value. And so connect with them. We'll tag their contact information, reach out to them, and you can have them as your social media team for really less than the cost of what a single employee would cost for you to be able to do this. And they post on every platform 5 times, 6 times a week, however much you need. They send a videographer out to you. They help you create the entire brand. They're absolute rock stars at what they do. So make sure you hit them up, and make sure you follow the entire series on Spilling the Beans. We'll be dropping these every single week for the next several weeks. Appreciate you. Be your best.